Hello my fellow weirdos, my name is Marie McWilliams. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video I am creating my very own tag called the Horror Life tag. Hey guys, as I said, for today's video we will be doing the Horror Life tag that I've created. Basically this is just a tag about all the wonderful horror that has impacted you as a viewer and reader over the years. And I would encourage everyone who's a horror fan to join in if you would like to. Don't wait to be tagged, get involved. I love seeing you guys do my tag videos. So if you do it, let me know in the comments down below so I can go and check out your video and leave you a little comment in return. But let's get into the questions, shall we? So what was the first horror movie that you remember seeing? I am pretty sure I saw horror movies before this one. But the one that really sticks in my mind is when my sister and I were probably far too young. I think I probably was maybe like 10 and she was like 8. My mom wasn't overly strict and kind of let us watch whatever we wanted. In fact, she said we used to watch a lot of the shows about special effects and stuff. So blood and gore and things like that never bothered us because we knew it wasn't real and we were able to tell her how they made it look real. So she was never really worried about us having nightmares or anything like that. So that she's probably partially responsible for my love of horror because she let me watch whatever the hell I wanted. But I remember my sister and I wanting to stay up late to watch one of the Halloween movies. And I think it was Halloween 3 or 4 maybe, I can't even remember. But we were so excited to watch this movie and my mum let us stay up late and it was on Halloween. And about an hour in, we were like, where is Michael Myers and what the hell is happening? But this particular Halloween, and maybe you guys will be able to tell me which one it was, is about a company creating Halloween masks for children that when they put them on and watch the TV show that goes with it, their head melted and turned into bugs and stuff. It was so weird. It was so weird. And was not at all what we were hoping for. We were wanting to watch Halloween. We wanted Michael Myers and the stabbing and the blood. So I remember us watching it and then we kept watching it hoping and believing that at some point Michael Myers would walk in. Obviously in our naive youth. Not realizing that not all of the horror franchise has any relation to Michael Myers. So yeah, maybe someone will be able to tell me what movie that is. But that's one that really sticks in my mind. I've obviously watched films before that, otherwise we wouldn't have had so much interest in Michael Myers and Halloween. But that one sticks in my mind as being one of my earliest memories of getting really excited to watch a horror movie. Shout out to my sister, by the way. What was the first horror book that you remember reading? I'm gonna have to go with the point horror books back in the day. I loved those point books. I don't know if you remember them. They had point horror, point crime, and I loved the horror and crime collection. And I remember reading them. I think I remember reading one about a killer at a prom or something like that. So I loved those. Obviously Goosebumps. Everybody loved Goosebumps growing up, so I remember reading those. So those were the kind of ones that laid the foundation, but I think the first kind of grown-up horror book that I read would have been Misery by Stephen King, which you guys know is about an author who has a car accident in this remote snowy part and is found by a woman who happens to be his biggest fan, and she's going to nurse him back to health, and he's like, yeah, you can read my new manuscript, and she realizes that he's going to kill off her favourite character and she cannot have that, and becomes quite the little psychopath. It's a wonderful book and a wonderful adaptation with Kathy Bates, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I think that's the first kind of grown-up one that I remember reading and being like, oh wow, I love this. What is the movie that made you a horror fan? I was born towards the end of the 80s. I'm not going to be too specific. So I was kind of coming in of an age when all of those awesome slasher movies came out, like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend, and I love all those movies, but Scream for me was just, I loved it. It perfectly captured my early adolescent teen angst. I loved the way that it took all of those tropes and made fun of them, but also included them, that it broke the third wall and made the audience kind of come in on the joke with the people involved in the film. I just loved the sarcastic tone of it, and the bloodiness, and I just thought it was perfection. It was exactly my humor, it was exactly my style, and Scream will forever remain my favorite horror movie as a result. I didn't get to go and see it in the cinema because I was far too young. I would never have been able to get in. I remember we had a local video shop where, yes, it was literal videos, guys, okay, VHS videos, and me and my sister used to walk around this shop and we'd get some sweets from the sweet shop next door, and we would rent videos constantly. Me and my sister just loved watching movies. And they had a bargain bin where the films that weren't really getting rented as regularly anymore, they needed to make room for new stock. So they had a big bin where everything was £1. And we got some great movies out of there. Because it was £1, even if we didn't know what the film was, we were like, well, we'll just buy it and watch it anyway. And we got Scream on VHS, and we watched that until the tape was malfunctioning, until it wasn't playing properly anymore. It and High Spirits, if anybody knows what High Spirits is, it's like Liam Neeson's, like, one of his first roles. And it's a comedy with like Peter O'Toole and stuff about a haunted castle in Ireland with literal ghosts. It's wonderful comedy. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it immediately. It is awesome. Yeah, I think those two VHSs we pretty much watched to death. Again, shout out to my sister. She can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say those two were the ones that got the most viewing. What is the book that made you a horror fan? Ooh, I think it's going to probably end up being one of the classics. Something like Dracula, Frankenstein. The books that I read a long time ago, that I see threaded through and still impacting so many of the reads and movies that I watch today. I remember reading them years ago and just, oh God, loving everything about them. I've always been a big Gothic literature fan, and the language, the richness of the language. My mum always jokes that I was born in the wrong era because I love things to be old and to have a history and a feel about them, to almost be haunted by their previous owners. I love old books, I love old everything. And those types of books always just appealed to me, this different era, this different time. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go Dracula and Frankenstein tied there. What is your favourite horror movie of all time? Guys, I've already said it, it's Scream. It's Scream. Don't get me wrong, there are so many amazing horror movies that it is a real struggle for me to pick, but Scream will always hold that special place in my heart because I just, like, it just spoke to me when I was a young adolescent. I've even got my little killer Funko. Yeah, that I just love that film. And you know what? I like the sequels. 3 not so much, but I like 2. I loved 4. I'm excited they're making a 5. As far as I'm concerned, they can make 25 of those and I will go and watch every single one of them. I love Scream. Period. Favourite horror book is where it gets tricky because I don't know if I can narrow that down. There are so many good books. I'm like trying to look at my shelf and go through like all the horror books to try to pick out, but it's tough. I think if I had to pick one, I'm going to go for Needful Things with Stephen King. Stephen King's had a massive impact on me in terms of my tastes in books and movies. I mean, he's prolific, like he's written so much, there's something there for everybody, and I think because Needful Things is my personal favourite of all the Stephen Kings I've read, I'm going to put it up there. But that is hard because there's just so many books that I would put, you know, equal footing. There are just so many 5 out of 5s that I've read, even recently. That's a really tough one. What's your favourite horror trope? This is why I love Scream as well, because it just goes through all those tropes and makes them like a part of the movie, you know, the virgin and the nerd and the bad boy and all those kind of like typical type things. I also love Cabin in the Woods for that reason as well, for taking those really stereotypical tropes and subverting it and making it something new. That's, if you haven't seen that film, it's genius. I think I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go for the, like, final girl trope. I like that the last survivor is always the purest of heart. The woman who starts off maybe meek and a little bit frightened and then ends up being quite badass by the end of it. I think she would be epitomized by Halloween, by Jamie Lee Curtis's character. You know, she does a lot of screaming in that film, but by the end of it, she's like attacking him with a coat hanger and stuff. Like, good on her. One of the reasons I love the new recent sequel with her grown up, like older, and being like, I'm coming for you, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go final girl trope. I like it. And I love movies that, again, take the final girl trope and twist it, like Cabin in the Woods, and like Scream, and like films like The Final Girl and stuff like that. Finally, why do you love horror? Oh, so many reasons. So, partly, I've always just had a very sort of dark sense of humor. I've always had a very dark kind of temperament. I've been fascinated. I did my degree in psychology, and I've always been fascinated by human nature and why we do the things that we do, how there are people who've been raised in completely different cultures and surroundings and had totally different life experiences, but have somehow followed a similar pattern psychologically and in life. And I love all those things that we have, and understanding why people do things that they do, particularly horrible things. Why do people do awful things? So criminal psychology was always particularly interesting for me. I did my dissertation in forensic psychology, and I always just had an interest in, I blame my mum for this, because my mum raised me on Agatha Christie and whodunits and murder mysteries. I have seen every daytime show that involved somebody solving some kind of murder, from Jessica Fletcher to like Midsummer Murders. I watched them all growing up. And as a result, I'm now a crime murder mystery fanatic, and I was always fascinated with criminals and serial killers and why they did what they did. My mum always jokes, she remembers in primary school when there was like a book club, and you got to like pick books, and they were kind of at a cheaper, lower cost, from like a little catalogue. And the one that I wanted was, when I was like, I was maybe only like 8 or something, maybe younger, I wanted the Jack the Ripper book. She always remembers being like, all right, you know, because that's just the type of thing that I've always been interested in. So I think there's something about it having just always been something that fascinates me. But I genuinely enjoy the excitement and the thrill of being afraid. And I love the way that horror, in particular, of all this kind of genres out there, the way that it explores human nature. The worst parts of human nature. Because those are the parts that we don't want to face. We don't want to admit what we could truly be capable of, given the right set of circumstances, the right pressures, the right tragic incidents. You know, we don't want to see ourselves as being capable of certain things, and being confronted with that in a movie, being confronted with the possibility of what humans are capable of, being confronted with the possibility of what unknown forces are out there, what things that we don't know that lurk in the dark, that are under our bed, at the back of our closet, that noise that we hear and tell ourselves all the time is just a pipe, is actually something far more malignant. I love that, you know, and I love the way that it explores everything from religion to death, to emotions, to family, to relationships. I just think that it does it in a really interesting way. I basically just love everything about it, you know, from like cheese-tastic to really intense, dark and well-written horror. I love it. I love it. And I always will, guys. And I will be here for you to provide you with that horror-loving content. On that note, if you could subscribe, that would be great. Hit the bell button, leave me a comment. I would love to know your answers to these questions. And I'm going to tag a couple people. I'm going to tag Harpies in the Trees. I'm going to tag Hey Little Thrifter. You know what? I'm going to tag Cameron, aka the Book Movie Guy. I'm trying to tag like horror sort of specific. So I'll link all those accounts down below. But don't wait to be tagged, guys. If you're a horror fan and you want to let me know all of the books and movies that influenced your love of horror, please go ahead, make a video, let me know so I can go and check it out and comment on it. And that's me for now. Bye, horror fans.